أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له وأن تصوموا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون صدق الله العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. My dear respected brothers, elders, listeners, two verses of the Holy Quran that I've recited are from Surah Al-Baqarah, para number 2. And the opening verse, in fact this whole ruku that I've selected and part of it, the first two verses that I've recited, is dedicated to the rulings related to fasting in Ramadan, the legal rulings, the spiritual side, i'tikaf, and all these things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in one ruku in Surah Al-Baqarah, starting from verse 183. In the Holy Quran, this is the only place we will find about Ramadan, about fasting in this ruku. Apart from that, there is no other place in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about Ramadan. So it's important as Muslims, and it's obvious when we want to learn about Ramadan, we want to learn about fasting, we want to learn about the legal rulings, we want to learn about the spiritual side of Ramadan, then it's obvious and clear the first thing that we would turn to is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the blessed Quran. And in the Quran is only one place. And in this one place, it only consists of almost maybe 5 to 6 verses. So the bare minimum we can do as Muslims is to study this ruku to understand a little more about Ramadan. And over in the next weeks, inshallah, the aim is to try and cover this ruku in the turns that I have for Dars Quran, and over 3 durus, hopefully this ruku will be covered inshallah with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we'll begin with the first verse. In the first verse we'll learn about fasting and what is the legal ruling of fasting, what's the definition of fasting, what's the Shari'i definition of fasting. Was fasting only described this ummah or previous ummah? Also, why do we fast? A question which many of our youth fail to answer in the colleges, in the universities, in schools. Non-Muslims look and think during this blessed month of Ramadan that the Muslims, they struggle, they cannot eat, they cannot drink, and they must, it's something which is upon them. But little do they know the blessings and the merits of Ramadan, and why do we actually fast? We discuss has discussed the opening verse. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins those who believe. This verse, part of this verse, or Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu bil Quran, 90 times, maybe less or more in the Quran. 90 times. The command is coming up and we must pay attention. Just like other parts of the Quran, but this is a special message. The believers. This message is only for the believers. Sometimes in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people. This is a message from Allah. Ya ayyuhan ladhina, this message is only for the believers. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about the first thing is fasting in Ramadan is and the statements of the fuqaha that fast in Ramadan no excuse for Islam. Now they can open in Ramadan without any excuse, without any guilt, without any remorse, without respect for this lesson. So first we'll look at what fasting, sawm, means. The word sawm, the definition is al-imsak, is means to abstain, to stay away from. And the Shari definition of al-imsak al-sharabi wal-jima', to abstain from eating something, from time, just away till the time. This is the definition of fasting, what it means. That at the time when first start, that means and this fast will all the time of Maghrib, then anything eating, it must be done before that. And Maghrib immediately fast. This is the definition of fast, the dictionary meaning, the Shari definition of fasting. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ, like being made obligatory upon those that were before you. So it's not something which is new. Fasting has been made obligatory people before. But yes, their timing could be different, their fast could be different. And our fast in our ummah is different. So it's not something new. When something is happening in the society where everyone is doing it or people have done it in the past, then it becomes easy for us to do also. Like I mentioned about zakat. Zakat is something new. Zakat, which is also obligatory, is something which people have done before. So likewise, fasting is something which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made obligatory on people before other ummahs. But there could be a difference in their timing. in their nature. And the last part of the verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. The question which we need to understand as Muslims, why do we fast? What's the reason? Why do we fast? Non-Muslims, they may ask us, what is the purpose? Why are you staying hungry? Why are you staying thirsty? During the summer months, the fast is so long. You're making this statement. What is the purpose? Why are we doing this? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. لَعَلَّ in Arabic means perhaps, or it could come for hope that you develop this quality of taqwa. Taqwa could be translated as fearing of Allah, but actual means being conscious. Having the awareness Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching us. Now, we hear many times, ittaqillah, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You go to a nikah ceremony, you'll hear, fear Allah. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullah. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullah haqqa tuqatih. Ya ayyuhan nasu ittaqu rabbakum khalaqakum min nafsin wahida. You hear in a Jummah khutbah, you'll hear verses where Allah is saying, fear Allah. You go to a nikah ceremony, you will hear verses where Allah is saying, fear Allah. You speak about Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, fear Allah. In the Holy Quran, in many places Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioned, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning, have the awareness, conscious that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching you. And being conscious, where does taqwa exist is the question. Now, first question is, how do we develop this? It's not something special that we can eat or something special that we can buy. This quality, this sifa that we need. First question is, how do we get this? So the answer is taqwa itself, as the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned in the hadith, is something which is in the heart. At-taqwa hahuna. Next question, how we develop this consciousness is through training, is through practice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the blessed month of Ramadan. In this blessed month, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put some restriction upon us. We can train and we can practice. Shaitan is our open enemy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has locked away the devil, the shaitan. He cannot attack us. He cannot use his workforce to try and deviate us. So now Allah has locked the shaitan. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us not one day, not 2 days. Sometimes we have like a blessed day of Jummah. It's a powerful day. And on Jummah, what happens? We feel more inclined towards ibadah. Worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reciting Surah Kahf, coming to the masjid early. And along with that, try and read durood on our beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Make more dua than we would on a normal day. But then what happens over the weekend? We can become weak again. The masjids become empty. Allah gives us the whole month of Ramadan to develop this, and there's hope that this is developed so that we can continue for the rest of our life, and we have this quality Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to have. Now, how do we actually, the question is, many of us do not realize how we are adopting this quality in Ramadan by fasting. Because Allah has put this restriction, we cannot eat, we cannot drink. Now what happens? 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, we feel thirsty. The throat sends a signal to the brain, I'm thirsty, do something about the throat, the stomach, or even if there's temptation, and we say there's nothing that I will not drink even a sip of water. I will not have even one morsel of food until Maghrib time comes. So this is the actual taqwa consciousness that we are doing while we are fasting. Yet there's no one there. But when it comes to other sins, now this thought, this signal goes to our brain. You're walking down the street, there's a strange girl, and you want to cast a glance. So now what happens? This thought comes and it goes to your head. You think, at that moment, what are you going to do? Ignore this message or go by the message and look, and na'udhu billah do haram. Or either you're going to ignore this message and say, no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching me. When you ignore this message and say what is halal is what I will do and what's haram I will stay away from, this is what taqwa is. This cautiousness. And we practice this for the whole month. You have an army. Now what happens? It's not that they go out and immediately go and fight the enemy. They have training camps. They train where they may have to wake up early in the morning and they have to run for hours and they have to practice their shooting to get it right on target. And there's so many other exercises that they would have to do in the army. And what is the purpose of this preparation? When they need to face the enemy, they don't immediately face the enemy. They have this training and they practice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this practice in Ramadan, that we have one full month where the enemy is locked away, chained away. Now we have this 1 month where we are becoming stronger day by day in our cautiousness, in our taqwa, because we can control it with the eating, drinking, and sexual intercourse during this time. So now when this signal of other sins come to us, eat haram, earn haram, look at haram, just like during the time of fasting we say no and we ignore the message. Likewise, we have to ignore the rest of these things for the rest of our life. So this is such a big ni'mah that Allah has given us. Ramadan, the exercise, full 30